Progressive hanging warm up, I'm just gonna talk you through this one instead of demonstrating it first because it makes a little more sense. So all we're doing in a progressive hanging warm up is starting with the exercise that is the least demanding, and then we progress onto the most demanding exercise. As we are moving through each of these positions, we're making sure that we are really getting in touch with our pelvic floor and our deep core and those nice stabilizing muscles in our shoulders, feeling our lats really working for us, all of the good things. This prepares us really well for either a climbing session, a pull-up session, a hangboard session, anything where we are basically doing all the things that we need to do to train for climbing. All right, so first we're just gonna start with some pelvic tilts in a hanging position. Now you want to do these supported. It doesn't make sense to do them unsupported, and you'll see why. So we're hanging here and I want your scaps engaged, so just kind of pull down lightly. You don't want to be gripping or anything, and make sure that we're not hanging out on your joints and your arms, okay? So tiny bend in your elbows. And now I have my feet on a box, but what I'm going to do is tilt back and tilt under. Tilt back and tilt under. And you just want to think about, as you're tilting under, you're going to exhale and get lots of deep core. So we're already just kind of starting to warm up and make sure that, hey, we can still get some movement in our pelvis without rocking back and forth or flaring our ribs. So we want our pelvis to be able to move into an anterior and a posterior pelvic tilt. That's a really good thing. There's no such thing as, an anterior pelvic tilt is not inherently bad. It's bad when we can't get out of this. All right, so that's just kind of step one. There's no recommended number, just however many kind of feels good to you. The point of that one is just to get the pelvis moving a little bit more. Exhale as you're coming forward into more of that posterior pelvic. So once we are done with the pelvic tilts in the hanging position, then we're just going to move to a static position. So we're still supported, and we want to make sure that we have a nice stacked position, and we're just going to take some really great inhales and exhales here. Inhales, you want to feel your ribs move. We're not looking to see the belly be the only thing that moves on an inhale. So some really great inhales, and then exhale. Deep core, pelvic floor, making sure on that inhale you let the pelvic floor go. Feel air, feel your ribs. Exhale, deep core, pelvic floor. So again, as many breaths as you feel like you need. I probably wouldn't do more than 10 at the most, but it's up to you. You do what your body feels like it needs, and you want to feel that connection super solid. Next thing we would do is just take it into a little bit more dynamic nature, and we can do that with some scap pulls. So again, in that stacked position, deep core, pelvic floor, deep core, pelvic floor, deep core, pelvic floor. And again, as many as you feel like you need. There's no right or wrong number. And lastly, we can just move to a more demanding position, and that can be unsupported, or maybe if it's just taking one foot off the bench, literally whatever you feel like you need. I tend to typically like to do it at the end in just a hollow body hold right here. And every time I'm exhaling, I'm getting a little more deep core, a little more pelvic floor. But with each inhale, I'm making sure that I'm letting my pelvic floor go. So that is a progressive hanging warm up. You could do literally like 3 reps of each, and I don't even think it would take a minute, but it's just a really great way to warm up that connection, get everything firing together with any sort of session that is going to have a high demand of hanging.